Well, welcome to the Glen Ferris Inn with Dining with Dan and Becky. And tonight I have as my guest Teresa Halloran. She works for the Department of Agriculture down in Charleston. And tell us what you do, Teresa.
My title is I'm a marketing specialist in foods, and I've been with the department for 23 years. And what I do is I help develop food producers in the state.
Okay.
People who basically, normally it's like a friend or relative have told them, you know, they've made a dish for years, you need to market this. And so that's how they come to me and want to know what all they need to do to market it legally.
And I think, did you help Blue Salsa when they were in business? That they started and did the salsa stuff?
Correct. Robin Hillenbrand owned Blue Smoke Salsa. She really was the first person that we had that was making an acidified food. And acidified foods come under different federal guidelines and regulations. And she had worked with Virginia Tech to serve as her process authority so that she could start making it. She started out in her basement of her home, which most people do. They start out putting a kitchen in the basement of their homes. And then, of course, you know, it gets bigger and bigger as you start doing various fairs and festivals and out marketing. She was a great marketer, so she's very well known.
Yes, she is. Where do you live?
I live in Charleston.
In Charleston, okay. And your husband, what's his name?
Kevin. Kevin Halloran.
Halloran. Is he here tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, he's over there behind. He's not on camera. He's camera shy. Uh-oh. We got him on camera now. So we're not going to let him by easily. So, well, let's go back in the kitchen and get something, or check with Becky to see what all she's made for us this evening. And I'm sure she's made something really good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Welcome to Dining with Dan and Becky at the Glen Ferris Inn. And as always, welcome to the lovely kitchen at the inn. Dan's dinner menu for tonight is a little bit unusual, but it also has some of my favorite comfort foods in it. We'll be having a tossed salad. We're having a country captain, a broccoli casserole, roasted red potatoes, and then an all-time country dessert that's a favorite of everyone, fried apple pies. So let's go ahead and get started with our first selection. Now, when you look at the time, the broccoli casserole takes 55 minutes. The country captain takes 40 and 10 is 50 and 10 is 60. So it takes about an hour, 10 minutes. The red roasted baked potatoes takes about 50 minutes. So they're all in about the same time frame, and because it's more time consuming to prepare the broccoli casserole, that's what we're going to go with first. So let's get the ingredients for the broccoli casserole out, get it put together, get it in the oven, and then we will start the country captain. Broccoli that is defrosted, and I've had this sitting at room temperature for about an hour, so it's cool. You will need a tablespoon of butter, 3 slices of American cheese, 4 slices of Swiss American cheese, 2 cups of heavy cream, chicken base, mushrooms, onions, and then we will need shredded cheddar cheese for the top. So let's go ahead and get started on this. All right, the first thing we're going to do, guys, is to melt our butter. Now, since this is butter, you do not want to leave it too long at too high of a temperature because it will caramelize. And to that, I am going to, as soon as I get just a little bit more melted, I am going to add our chicken base. Now, you can use the paste like I have. If you prefer the dry granules, you can certainly use that. And if you prefer the little rat bouillon cubes, that'll work too. I generally use 2 bouillon cubes. I use a tablespoon of the beef base, but I just don't use the granules. No reason, it's just that if I don't have the base, then I am going to do the little cubes, and I like those really well. All right, I'm gonna add 1 small chopped onion to this, and I'm going to let it cook just a little bit. All right, we want to keep it stirred. We want to break it apart. And as soon as all the butter is melted, and it almost is, we will add our mushrooms. Now, this is a 6-ounce can of mushrooms drained. So we are going to heat that up. And for the most part, guys, you have this casserole down. You know, of course, you have to add the broccoli. We want to make the sauces. So what we will do is add first our heavy whipping cream. And I am going to add nothing else to this until it starts simmering. Boy, I love that stuff. Okay, we're just going to stir it occasionally. Don't want it to stick. And as soon as it starts scalding, we're going to add our cheeses. Once you prep for this, it is absolutely nothing to do it, but it is certainly time consuming with all that prepping. Okay, do you see the little bubbles on the side? It is beginning to simmer, and that is a sign that it is ready to scald. You can splash it up on the side of your pan, and if it runs down in jagged patterns, that's also a sign that it's getting ready to scald. So we're going to add 4 slices of Swiss American cheese. Now, I would not add pure Swiss cheese to this. It makes it just a little bit strong, and there's been no one that I have served that to, because I originally did the Swiss, that liked it. So boy, I should have put something between this. So you have 4 slices of Swiss American, 3 slices of American, and this has got to melt before we go any further. I don't care too much for mushrooms, but I even like them in this dish. So, there we are. I like to tear them into small chunks or pieces because the more surface area you have in a physical reaction, the faster the reaction is completed. And all we want to do is heat the cheeses up to the temperature of the milk. Heat flow is also an interesting scientific fact. All right, the only thing we have left to do for this part is to add our broccoli. But we need every bit of that melted. You do not need to salt and pepper this because the chicken base has got enough salt. Okay. it is melted. So we are going to add our broccoli, and all you have to do is stir it till it's coated. Then we will put it in the baking dish and place it in the oven. Oh boy. Now Ricky is here helping me tonight, so I'm going to let him pick this up and put it in the pan because, to be honest with you, I forgot the rice. If I didn't have a recipe around me, I not know what I would do. So let's add the rice. You want that broccoli completely covered. And the rice should be evenly distributed, but it doesn't hurt too much if it's not. So here we are. The broccoli is coated with the cream and cheese mixture and the onion mixture. So let's get it in the pan. Rick, can you get this for me, please? Thank you. All right, here is the baking pan, if you want to put it here, so they can see what we're doing. I've got foil. All right, and here we are. One beautiful broccoli casserole. And all you have to do now is bake it for 45 minutes. And then, as with all of our casseroles that have cheese in them, we pull it out, put the cheese on it, put it back in for 10 minutes. The longer you cook that cheese, the harder it's going to set up when it cools, and it just isn't very good when you go to reheat it if you have leftovers. So let's get this in the oven. Set the timer. And I will be right back. And welcome back. We're ready to start our country captain. I would really be interested in knowing how many of you have heard of it or how many of you have had it. It seems to be fairly popular in southern restaurants, and when I saw the name of it, I just had to try it. So over the weekend, I fixed Dan a batch of it to see if he liked it, and he did. So we are going to go with it today. Country Captain is a chicken dish that is seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic, thyme, and curry. It has got tomatoes in it. It's fried in a combination of bacon and oil, and then it's baked off. When you pull it out of the oven, you add currants to it, put it back in, and then when that is done, you sprinkle toasted almond slivers on it. And it was really a very nice Sunday dinner this week. So, let's get our grease hot, melt our bacon fat. You do not want very much grease on this, that's for sure. Now, I fried 8 pieces of bacon this morning to get the bacon fat, and it wasn't enough, so I diluted it with a little bit of oil. You are supposed to have 2 tablespoons of bacon fat, but I just don't think that was enough. All right, our chicken has been cleaned, washed, so let's get it laid in here. Now, all you're going to do is lightly brown both sides. Now, isn't that a beautiful piece of meat? Okay, let's try to get one more in here. Okay, there we are. Now give me a minute to wash my hands. I don't want to carry salmonella all over the place, and I'll be right back to turn that. Then we will start the sauce. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Let's start our sauce for that country captain. We are going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Now, the original recipe says to take your skillet after you brown the chicken, wash it out, dry it, and make your sauce in the same skillet. Well, I just don't have enough time for that. But now what we are going to do is melt our butter. We're going to add our peppers. And we are going to put our chicken after we have cooked it on both sides to this, and then we're going to bake it for 20 minutes. And I know that doesn't seem to be a lot of time, but honestly, I fixed it for Dan's Sunday dinner and it worked out perfectly. Now I'm going to add the onions. All right, now we want the onions to become transparent. So we are just going to let them sit here and simmer, and I'm going to get a pair of tongs to turn the chicken with. It may not be ready. It doesn't look like it's browning on the sides. I think that if I were a manufacturing company who was making butter and margarine and all of these spreads, that I would also make bacon grease. It is just a pain to have to cook bacon and have no reason to have it for your grease to fry your chicken in. That is how I feel about it. So if you get to talk to Kraft or Butter or Land O'Lakes, tell them our little theory that people in West Virginia will cook with bacon fat on some dishes. All right, now that was garlic I added. All right, your onions and your peppers are both sweating. Now remember, these are going to bake for a good 20 minutes in the oven. Now this has got salt, 1.5 teaspoons, pepper, 1/2 teaspoon, and 2 teaspoons of curry and 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme in it. So let's see what we've got. All right, we're going to add this and stir it up. Now you want that to coat all of your vegetables as much as possible, fairly evenly. It may have even been better to have dissolved it in your butter. I do not know. All right, they all have a good dusting of everything. And the last thing we're going to do is to add 16 ounces of canned tomatoes. So we're going to mix that in and let it simmer just a little bit, and I have got to turn that chicken. Okay, Ricky, a pair of tongs. Okay, let's get busy turning this chicken, because we really can't do anything with it until we get it turned. I'm going to turn up their fire, turn down this one, and now if you use too much curry, your food, well, before you add extra curry, just taste it and make sure that it is what you want. All right, so here we go. All right, let's get this stirred. Now, all this has to do right now is simmer. I have never had a curry dish that wasn't overpowering to me, so this came as a pleasant surprise. Whoops. Okay, so we are almost done. Now remember, we are not cooking our chicken all the way. It is going to be baked in the oven for the next 20 minutes, then take it out, we do something, put it back, then it's 10 minutes, take it out, put it back, and then it should be about done. So let's go ahead and start. Okay, let's get some more turning going here. Okay, one more. Whew. Okay, this is doing good. And here we are. That is hot. Okay, guys. Let's just get these turned a little bit. You want your peppers and your tomatoes and your onions on the top, if at all possible. All right, let's turn this over and over. All right, now we want this baked until it reaches 180. So here we go. We'll put this foil on it, mash it down where the handles are, fold it over. And it is also ready to go in that oven for 45 minutes. And welcome back. Let's go ahead and get our roasted red potatoes in the oven so that the only thing that we'll have to deal with is the cheese topping on the broccoli casserole and the currants in the country captain. So now what we're going to do first is a mixture half and half of olive oil and canola oil with about 2/3 of a stick of butter. Now we're going to heat that up. Well, wrong burner. Now all we have to do is get the butter to melt, and it's already at room temperature, so it shouldn't be hot to do. But I just don't want 2 or 3 potatoes flavored with butter and the rest flavored with the combination of olive oil and canola oil. So let's get this done. All right, let me get everything else prepared. Well, son of a gun. All right, I guess we're going to put you here. Okay, we have a teaspoon and a half of salt, teaspoon of pepper. We have got 1 clove garlic, really minced. And we're going to mix this up really good in our butter oil combination. Because let's admit it, everyone likes the taste of butter, but everyone wants the health benefits of the olive oil. And I guess this is about the best of both worlds. All right, so you have your butter, your salt, your pepper, your garlic, your olive oil, your canola oil. So let's take this off now, and we are going to add the baby red potatoes. All right. Baby red potatoes. Now I have parboiled these for 5 minutes because these generally take a good hour and a half to bake, and I just don't have the time. At my house I parboil them too, so don't think I'm just shorting you guys. Now make sure as you toss them that all of your potatoes are evenly coated with your butter oil combination. Now I am going to add 1 red onion, and I'm going to mix it in. Now we'll be stirring this off and on as it bakes. Now this has to bake at least 45 minutes. It would be an hour 15 minutes if we hadn't parboiled the potatoes. So we will have to test them and see what else we have to do to them as time goes by. Okay, so let's get a piece of foil and get that in the oven. And then, guys, guess what's next? All right, Donna, what do you think is next?
Apple pie.
Yes, our fried apple pies. How many of you had fried apple pies every time you visited, or a majority of your visits with your grandmother? Yeah, certainly me. My grandmother made something called an apple stack. When there were a lot of families in. My mama, Granny Phillips, says it's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She would fix 5 or 6 whole apple pies, take them out of the pie pan, and stack them one on top of the other. My mind just can't comprehend it. One day I'm going to mess around with sugar cookies and do that with sugar cookies and apples. But she said it was not that way. They were whole apple pies, and that Mama Phillips just called them an apple stack. So we have got 20 minutes before our broccoli casserole comes out, and then we have 20 minutes before the country captain comes out. So we are just moving right along. So give me a few minutes to clean up my mess and to get the stuff out for the, boy, my mind's gone, for our fried apple pies. Thank you, Donna. And don't you just love making apple pie filling? Now these are Dan's apples that I froze. So we are going to heat these up and start the cooking. Okay. Now, just as soon as these heat up, we are going to add the other ingredients to this. We are going to add a half a cup of sugar, half a cup of flour. If you mix the two together, your flour does not clump as bad as what it would if you just mixed it with the apples. 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. So let's get these over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is add that cinnamon to it. Okay. Now, if you can't see the cinnamon in your apple juice that's coming out of these, then you do not have enough cinnamon in it. So, when I am making the apple dumplings, I make a cinnamon sauce to go with it. And I put a little bit of frozen apple juice in it and some crunched up apples just to give it a little bit of class. And it is really delicious. So, now all we want is for this just to thicken up some. You do not want it to be so thick. All right. Now it is simmering over on that side. So I'm going to add this a little bit at a time. I'm going to shake it all over the apples. Then I'm going to mix it in. Now when this starts thickening, then I'll know that I have added enough thickener. Now if you're doing a fried apple pie, you need your filling fairly thick to prevent the juices from running out. So let's add another one. Almost like you'd cream peas or vegetables, guys. Now you could also use cornstarch on this. Danny just doesn't care for cornstarch in his desserts. He likes the flour taste. So that's what I give him. So here we are. We have got 1 apple filling finished. So we are going to pull this off of the heat and start our pie dough. So let me get it off, turn it off, and get this out of the way, and I'll be right back with the ingredients to make the dough. Okay, now we're ready to start our pie crust. You need 2 cups of flour. Now remember, this is my mama's, Granny Phillips's pie crust. This contains 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 pinch of salt. Add that to your flour, and we're going to mix it up thoroughly. Okay. All right. 3/4 cup of solid shortening. Now you're going to cut this into your flour until it resembles peas. And what you want to do is get your shortening covered with the flour and keep stirring it in and stirring it in. And then when you get to the point where you've got a lot of pieces, start rubbing it between both hands. Pick up flour, shortening, and rub. And you will get it done a lot faster and a lot more uniform. I'll tell you, this is the absolute best recipe for pie crust that I've ever used in my life. 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 pinch of salt, 3/4 cup of shortening, and 3/4 cup of water. So here we are. The shortening has been cut in until everything is uniform. I am going to add the water. I'm going to make a well in the center. add the water. And then I am going to start working in the flour on the outside. When it gets to the point that I cannot see a pool of liquid anymore, I will stop and finish working it in with my hands. If you are working with the dough, now remember, all of this dough is raw. It's going to be baked. As long as your hands are clean, you do not need to glove up. But this way, you can tell the texture, the smoothness, how wet it is, and to a small extent, how elastic it is. So here we are. We have our dough finished. Now, isn't that just perfect? Okay, let me go clean up my hands. We will cut these out. We will cut out our pies. We will do the filling. And then, what do you think we do to them next? Well, you have your choices. You can bake them, then brush the crust with a little bit of melted butter and sugar, or you can fry them. If you choose to fry them, do not add extra butter to it, but you can sprinkle some sugar on it if that is what you want. So I'll be right back.
Dan Hill Construction Company in Glen Ferris has over 33 years of local service. With county, state, and federal and church construction experience, we can design and build any type of project that will suit your needs. Once you select us for your project, we'll supply all the tools, labor, equipment, and materials to complete your project on budget and on time. We're a zero drugs tolerance company with an excellent safety record as a bonded and insured commercial contractor, with an outstanding relationship and payment record reputation with all of our subcontractors and suppliers. References available upon request. We are Dan Hill Construction Company, 9033 Midland Trail, Glen Ferris, West Virginia, 304-632-1600, license number WV001196, rated in the best top 50 government contractors in West Virginia.
All right, the buzzer, the timer just went off, so let's pull out that broccoli casserole. I think this is it. I should have labeled them, or at least remember where I put them. Yes, it is. Ooh, that smells good. All right, we are going to put our cheese on it. And one more. All right, then we're going to put this back in the oven for 10 minutes. All right, we're also going to pull out the Country Captain. Ooh, that is heavy. And we are going to sprinkle the currants in it. Now look at that. Isn't that a pretty dish? Okay. And at this point, we do not need to cover it back up, nor do we need to cover up the broccoli casserole. So let's put it back in the oven. And we're going to set the time for 10 minutes. On both of them. And welcome back. If you remember, we were working on our pie crust before the timer went off. So what you're going to do at this point, you're going to get a ball of crust, sprinkle your working surface with flour. All right, now remember, if you want it circular, you start out with a ball. If you want it rectangular, you start out with a rectangle or square. All right, now, and as long as you use even number of rolls, that was 3. So we're going to do 3 this way. You should come up with something that's a little bit on the circular side. Now, you don't want this too thin. I'm going to put whatever size I decided I need down on my dough, and I'm going to cut it out. You want this to be circular. And there we are. Now the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to moisten the outside with water, just so it'll get a little bit gummy and sticky and it'll stick together well. Okay. We are going to get our pie filling, give it a stir. Smell that cinnamon. And we're going to put a couple spoonsful or 1 good spoonful in the center. We're going to put a little bit more than that. Now remember, this has to fold down and then completely enclose your pie. Now we have made the outside gummy so the dough will stick together. You are going to take one edge and pick it up and move it all the way over and press it down. Now once you have it pressed down, you're going to take a fork and flour it. And you're going to press your tines all the way around your semicircle now of apple pie. Now this is going to be fried, and then we're going to sprinkle it with a little bit of cinnamon and sugar mixed together. Now if it starts sticking like it did right here, put some more flour on it. So there we are. When we get 4 of these done, we will go ahead and fry them. Now be careful moving it. Put some flour on. And then while they're frying, we will do another 4. Okay? A ball of dough, flour on the outside of it, form a ball, and roll it out. All right. All right, 3 one way, 3 the other way. Then we're going to cut out our selected pattern. You can make these as large as you want or as small as you want. Okay, remove the crust that's left. Then we are going to wet the outside so it will stick together. Add your pie filling in the center. And I think I'm going to add 1 more piece. Then you're going to lift up one side, fold it over, and bring it to the other side. Press your ends together. With your fork, you're going to flour it. You're going to press your tines all the way around, further sealing it. And we now have 2. right, make your ball. If it starts sticking, just add more flour. 3. All right, cut out the shape you want for your pie. Hey, Teresa. Oh, wetting the outside. Don't let me forget that, guys. Now you can make these little fruit pies out of any fruit. You can make them out of apples like we've done, peaches, blackberries, raspberries. The Japanese have a pie that's called Japanese fruit pie, which is full of walnuts and almonds, and it is really a super pie. I do not know if pecan pie would work well, but theoretically, if you can make a pie, you can do this. Okay. All right, this is enough for our first batch. I can remember when Granny, Natalie Phillips, my mother, made these, she would can all summer, and she would fix apple pie filling and applesauce, and I think my favorite one of these was her fried apple pies made with applesauce. It was really good. Now this is going to be the last one I fix right now, and then I think that's plenty. Fold it over, press your edges together. Whoops. And there is 4, and oh boy, look at that. Okay, let me get this off. Let me pull out my broccoli casserole. The other side of my bowls, those are my toasted almonds. Could you get those and just sprinkle them on top of the chicken, please? Okay, a little bit more, faster, faster, faster. That's my girl. Thank you, Kelsey. And we're taking the foil off of our potatoes, setting it for 10. We are ready to fry our fried apple pies. So we're going to heat the oil. Now this is just like anything else you fry. You do not want to put it in your grease until it gets hot enough that your moisture will pop or your flour will bubble. So it just isn't there yet. My grandkids are always after me to make them zapoli when they come in, and they've gotten pretty good at cutting it out, and I'll fry it and then they will decorate it. And if your grease is too hot, your zapoli will get too dark. If it's not hot enough, then your Zapoli will not be done in the center. So what we do is use a candy thermometer, and we have our shortening our vegetable oil just about 300 degrees, and this is getting there. All right, let's try one more time. Okay, I think it's a done deal now. Now be careful about putting them in. These fry almost like a popover. When they're ready to turn, all you have to do is give them a little bit of a nudge and they will pop over. Okay. All right, now this one will be Donna's because it's messed up. I didn't have enough shortening flour underneath it when I went to pick it up. Now I need to fit in one more. Don't you just love going to those restaurants that has the display case and it has those marvelous blueberry muffins about like that, the fried apple pies and the cinnamon rolls. Don't buy them, but I sure love looking at them. Okay, so now this is gonna fry. So while that's doing it, I'll be cleaning up my mess a little bit. Okay, let's get these turned and out of the fire. Now just look at those. Aren't those absolutely letter perfect? Are they not letter perfect? All right, we've got 2 more to go, and then I will be finishing these while we go visit with Dan. Okay, and there we are. Fried apple pies, just like Grandma used to make. So you guys go relax a little bit while we get ready for the next portion of our dining show, and I will see you in the dining room in a few.
Well, Becky, what have you made for us this evening?
Well, a little bit of an experiment today. You're having a tossed salad.
That's not an experiment.
I know, but you're having a country captain.
A country captain, okay. Is
Haven't
that a
turned
salad?
cannibal. No, it's a main dish.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a traditional Southern dish, but you know, I've been down south a lot in restaurants that weren't fast food restaurants, and I don't think I have ever seen it on a menu.
Okay.
But they may have it in cafeteria type things, and I just
Well, what's it
didn't
made of?
Well, it has chicken and tomatoes and green peppers and onions.
Okay.
It has got currants, almonds, salt and pepper.
You'll have to show me what the currants are.
Well, they look like baby raisins.
Raisins, okay.
And in fact, the recipe said if you couldn't find currants, to use raisins.
Okay.
But I found currants.
Well, good. Okay. What else we having?
Broccoli casserole. It's that time of
Broccoli?
year. Broccoli casserole is one of my comfort foods, Teresa. That and, well, about 50 others, but I haven't had it in a while, so we're having broccoli casserole and roasted baby red potatoes.
Okay. Well, you're starving us to death.
All right.
Let's get on to the main course, or let's get the salad first.
Okay, what dressing do you want?
I want blue cheese.
Blue cheese, Teresa?
I like Italian.
You like Italian? Okay. All right, let me go get Kelsey.
Okay. Well, we have our salads here. Let's put our salad dressing on it and see what we can do here. Well, Becky, while we're getting our salads ready, you failed to tell us what we were having for dessert.
The fried apple pies,
Fried apple pie.
just like Grandma used to make.
Okay. So it's the apples I got up in Tucker County?
It is.
Oh, good. Well, try these and see how it tastes, dear. Got too big a leaf. It won't fit in my mouth.
Well, one thing about lettuce, it's flexible.
Are these cherry tomatoes out of my garden?
No, but the peppers in the country captain's out of your garden,
Okay.
and the tomatoes in it is out of your garden.
Well, the salad's very good.
It is
okay?
delicious.
Yeah.
Teresa, did he tell you about his garden?
And I haven't had a chance. I have a $5,000 garden. I built a wall, and it cost me $5,000. So I decided behind the wall, it would be nice if I just put topsoil back there and planted various vegetables. So my first year of harvest, I had all kinds of stuff. I had onions, tomatoes, squash, pumpkins,
All sorts of squash.
all kinds of.
Butternut, spaghetti.
It was
Crooked
running out of
neck.
our ears.
Oh, yeah.
Green beans, all kinds of stuff. But all that I planted cost me $5,000. Well, we've got our entree here. Becky, tell us what we have now again.
Okay, this is Country Captain,
Country Captain.
roasted red baby potatoes,
Okay.
and broccoli casserole.
And broccoli casserole. Okay. And mine looks different than hers. So what's the difference there?
She has a breast, I
She
have
has
a breast, you
and
have
I
a
have
thigh.
I have a thigh. Well, I'm a leg and thigh man,
I
so
know you are.
okay. Let's
It
try
looks
this.
wonderful.
Okay, let's take a bite of this.
Oh, and look at these. You cannot forget the rolls. These nice
Oh yeah.
clover leaf.
See, I would
Homemade
have just
rolls.
never believed that this had a spice in it that I didn't care for. I just think it has a very nice flavor.
Well, I think you should do a show on spices only, just to taste them and see what.
You're gonna come in and, yeah, right. I'll let you taste them.
Okay. Well, the chicken's very good, very good.
Well, thank you.
And these little
The black things are the currants, the white things are the slivers of almonds that have been
I see.
toasted.
So the currants are like a raisin,
Much smaller though.
but smaller. Well, they're
Teresa,
sweet.
does anyone have a currant farm in West Virginia?
I don't know what a currant farm is.
Not that I'm aware of, but a lot of people could have, because people grow like figs and currants, and yes. Potatoes. Ooh.
Aren't they
Roasted
good?
red potatoes.
Well, Teresa, I know I'm bothering you while you're eating, but what new programs does the Department of Agriculture have? It's been a while since we've gotten together.
Well, we have a new commissioner who was elected this year in January, Kent Leonhardt, and he's actually a farmer himself. And one of the things with our division, they have created it into the Business Development Division, Agribusiness Development. And we have 3 different sections in the division. We have the Veterans and Warriors to Agriculture, where we have funding to train veterans to become invested in agriculture. And that can be, anywhere from bee farming to hemp growing.
To growing currants.
Possibly, yes. And Another section is our marketing division, which we're looking to totally rebrand our marketing program, our state branding program, and we're working currently on that right now. And then we have a business development division, which is like what I work in, which is developing businesses.
Such as the inn.
Any type of West Virginia business, and working with an inn like this to utilize West Virginia products in their recipes. A lot of people want that farm to table experience, and so.
But if I go, say, Cane Branch has a lot of little farms. So if I drive up on Cane Branch and give them an order for 10 cases of tomatoes over a month and a half, do those tomatoes have to be inspected by FDA before I can bring them in here and use them?
No.
No?
No, they do not. That's considered a raw agricultural product, and so it's permissible for you to purchase those direct from the farmer. Really, it's eliminating a distributor or a middleman, and you're getting produce that was picked that day and served in the restaurant that same day, probably within 24 hours.
And they taste marvelous.
Right.
Absolutely marvelous. Well, what about eggs?
Eggs, you can purchase eggs too.
See, Dan wants 100 laying hens to give us, when we had the inn, 45 dozen of eggs a week.
I don't think they could produce that many, but I needed a lot of chickens to do the amount of eggs that they use here.
Right.
Because they use a lot of eggs to make the rolls and the pies and
Each
all that.
batch of rolls takes a dozen eggs.
So
And there's nothing like fresh eggs.
that's true.
That is true.
But that's another thing that you can work out something with a local farmer to encourage them, because it's a win situation for both of you. You're getting fresh eggs that when you're serving it at the inn, you have a much higher quality product. Plus, it helps them to supplement their income.
It sure would.
Let her eat some.
Okay.
She's good.
We'll pick your brain in a minute.
Well, everything was fantastic, Becky, just the way it always is when you cook me a meal. Well, what are we having for dessert now?
Well, I debated between blackberry, peach, apple, and if I had elderberry, I would have considered it.
I see.
Someone let my elderberries go.
Well,
They weren't mine. But we're doing fried apple pie with or without ice cream.
well, I have to tell about the elderberry now. If
I
brought
know you
that up,
do. 'Cause I remind
there's
you
two
from
elderberry
time to
bushes
time.
on one of my neighbor's yard, and I was going to pick those, but I wanted to get permission first, so
Mm-hmm.
I waited one day, and I went there, and somebody had already picked the first bush. So then the second bush, I said, well, I'll get it. So I go to his house, and I say, can I pick those elderberries? Oh, yeah, you can have them. The next day, somebody else picks them before I got to it. So I didn't get any elderberries. But I was going to make elderberry jelly. My mother used to make it all the time, and all that. And, the past commissioner was, what was his name? I forgot.
Walt Helmick,
Walt Helmick. And the one before that was
Gus Douglas.
Gus Douglas.
Gus Douglas, yeah.
Was a good friend of my father's, and my father was out of Mason County, and that's where Gus lived. He lived right across the river from my dad, and he would meet them at all the auction sales of all the cattle. And my dad was he loved farming, and he loved cattle and raising animals and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to mention that because my dad was a great, great farmer. He raised everything we ate. So.
Great.
But Becky, what's for
Dessert?
dessert?
Fried apple pie, baby.
Fried apple pie. Dessert on our apple No, what do you call this?
Fried apple pie.
Fried apple pie, okay.
Now, I thought about fixing a caramel apple filling
Yeah,
and then drizzle the top of it in the ice cream with a caramel syrup.
yeah, I thought that's what you were gonna do, but,
Well, no, I couldn't make up my mind, so I thought, well, until I see how bad I ruined these, I best not try with
Okay.
something new.
all right. Well, let's try this and see how it tastes.
I'm waiting.
Now, what type of apple did you use? It was a variety of type
It was a
apple?
variety of apples, so
Okay.
some of them will be firm and some of them will be soft, and the yellow delicious will probably be mush.
Well, that's okay.
Applesauce. Mhm.
All right, I'm gonna try it. It's hot.
I know.
Sorry. Well, did I put enough cinnamon in it? That's so hard
It's
to.
fresh fried, warm.
Yeah, it's got enough cinnamon in it. I like it.
It's hard to estimate how much cinnamon to use. Just really rough.
The ice cream's cold and the pie is hot, so
That's
it
true.
makes it work. I'm gonna have to cool this one off a little bit before I put it in my mouth, but. Do you like it?
It's delicious.
Okay, good.
Now, whenever I make the German bread that has the apples, the apple stolen, no, it's not stolen or whatever, it calls for golden raisins in it, and I thought about putting raisins in this. And years and years and years ago, when we started all of our recipes and the German feast and whatnot, they called them 2 cups of sultanas. Well, I
What's a
asked
sultana?
everyone, sultanas are the golden raisins, the white golden
Okay.
raisins, and I asked everyone I knew, and then finally I went to my mom, Granny,
Okay.
and I said, Granny, what's a sultana? And she said, well, Becky, those are just the white or golden raisins.
Okay, so it's from a white grape? Is that what, or what do you call them?
A white grape, and they
White.
turn golden when they dry them.
I see, okay. All right, see. Well, Becky, you've done it again. You've made another great meal for me and my guest and her husband over there in the background,
Kevin.
Kevin. And I think you've done a great job on our meal, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure they have enjoyed the meal and
It's
enjoyed being on
delicious.
camera. And I probably will keep you probably a couple more weeks.
See, the first time we did this, Teresa, he said, well, I'm going to keep you one more week. And I said, no, 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 that's not going to cut it. It's either a 2-week minimum or no contract.
All right. But she works real hard and does a really great job, and it's been a great asset to me and the Glen Ferris Inn, and she's developed a great following here at the inn. And we appreciate you coming, and you and your husband, even though
Thank
he didn't
you.
get to get on camera, but he's a little camera shy, but we appreciate you and what you do for the state and the hard work you do trying to get people to put their products out there for sale all over the state. And I know that there's been a lot of development over the years, and I hope that the governor and the legislature sees fit to help put a little more funds out there to
That's
make it
right.
work a little better. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well,
It was delicious.
Thanks, Teresa.
thanks for dining with, watching us at Dining with Dan and Becky at the Glen Ferris Inn. Good evening.
Bye. See you next time.